Hi. So how do we know when we're on this journey that we are actually purging, which is the clearing out of old emotions? How that happens is through a trigger, which implodes strong emotion from within us, and we work through that to reach a new baseline, and then another trigger will come in to work through that. Then we hit new ground after that level is cleared, and it goes like that through various cycles and degrees as part of our ascension process. We reach a new baseline, a new trigger comes in, we work through that, reach a new baseline, and that's how we shed the skin and reveal our authentic self. So what is the difference? How do we actually know if we are purging as opposed to recycling? The difference is the outcome. If purging is not transmuting your consistent thoughts and patterns, you are not purging, you are recycling. When we truly purge something, we transmute from one energetic state into another. So let me just repeat that again. Purging is transmuting one emotional state into another. The result of that is that we should feel lighter. We find new ground. We perceive things differently. Our emotional state shifts. It will unlikely shift from intense pain to joy and pleasure like that. That's going to be different processes of purging to get from here to here. But with each layer of purging, there's got to be a sense of lightness. There's got to be some sort of shift in our perspective. Something would have had to shift on an energetic, vibrational level for you to say, I've purged. For example, a trigger shows up, that means I'm abandoned, that means I'm not loved. Whatever meaning you're giving to that thing that is triggering you, which is going to be a core wound in a twin flame activation, if your perception of that does not shift, you're not purging, you're recycling. So emotions must shift when we purge them. Emotions must shift when we purge them. It is impossible for our energetic field to stay the same when we've purged something out. That's impossible. It's not purging, it's recycling. Your thoughts, your emotions, and your patterns are going to shift when you purge. They might shift 1 degree, they might shift 5 degrees, but it will shift and take you to the next level. The attachment to the story is how we get stuck in that state that is trying to purge through us. We get stuck in it because our mind is not able to get out of the way to allow that to actually purge through us. And this is so hard when we are triggered, because it's okay to do this when we are feeling in a more or less balanced state. When something happens but we can still reason with it. It's only when we're in a high triggered response or a trauma wound has come up, a core wound that's wanting to clear, that is when it's hard to keep those mental thoughts at bay and get out of the story and allow for whatever is coming through to just come through. With no attachment to why is it there, did I do wrong, what did they do wrong, there's a million different things that the mind will tell you at this point, none of which is going to serve you. The biggest challenge to allowing ourselves to clear the emotions that have come up in order to be cleared is to pay no mind to the story that's spinning in our head. I'm going to give you an example, because let's just say I've experienced a trigger and I'm sharing with you the story. This is what happened. They said this, I said this. I go through the whole situation with you. What I've essentially done is externalize the situation. I'm not connected to it as I'm relaying the story to you. It's in like a third person, right? So if you turn around and say to me, okay, you said this, they said this happened, that happened, and what do you feel about that? What does that mean? Once the story's been expressed, all that has been said, the she said, he said, all of that's played out, let's move that to the side and establish what's the meaning that I've given that situation. The meaning I gave that situation is that this person clearly doesn't love me to do X, Y, Z. Therefore, the meaning is that I'm unloved. Okay, now we're getting into me. How does that feel to be unloved? It feels like I'm invisible. It feels like I'm worthless. Let's get even deeper into this. What does it mean to feel unworthy? Get into the body. What is that feeling of being unworthy? Where does it sit? How does it present itself? Does it feel like a choking in your throat? Does it feel like your chest can't breathe under the weight that you're in? Does it feel like a knife is going through your stomach? Does it feel like your head is exploding? Does it feel like you can't get out of bed because you're just so heavy with grief, or heavy with resentment, or heavy with disappointment, with betrayal? Disappointment, betrayal, grief carry a certain energetic vibration, and it is heavy. So we've gotten now to the place of the external circumstance, to the meaning that I gave that, to the finer details of how does it present itself, where does it sit in the body, what are the actual symptoms within me as a consequence. There's no more story. Now we've identified energetic state that is boiling up in order to be purged. We've gone beyond the story, we've gone beyond the meaning to identify the actual sensation that is sitting in the body here and now. Once you get to that point, sit with it. Sit with that heaviness in your chest. Go into it. Go deep into it. Feel it. Breathe through it. It's heavy. Does it have a shape? Does it have a pattern? What does it look like inside, in your internal eye? What's your breathing like as you try and breathe through that heaviness? Stay there. Stay with it. This is where we switch off. This is where we're like, back into the story. He said, why do I... That's what we do. All we do is recycle. That is not purging. Forget the story. Forget the meaning. Stay with the sensation in your body. Because that is what is being purged out of you if you let it. How do you know you've purged? The outcome. I can breathe again. There's space here where before it was dense and heavy. It may not all leave at once, but it feels lighter. Once that's purged from you, the very circumstance that triggered that response you're going to see that differently. That is going to shift. You will see it through new eyes as the purging happens. But if you're feeling the same and you're thinking the same, your patterns are the same, and your energy is projected externally on the event, or even the middle ground, which is the meaning that you've given, you're not there. You're not doing the work of purging. You've got to get to that next layer where you not only identify the story, not only identify the meaning that you've given it, but that you're connected to the sensation of what's brought up for you, what's come up as a consequence of that trigger, as a consequence of that circumstance. That is where you invest your full attention and focus. Because as you do, it's going to lift. You will feel lighter. Your perception will shift. And that's how you know you are purging and descending, as opposed to recycling and staying in the same state. Much love.